time. It's always vanishing. The commute, the errands, the work functions, the meetings, selling your car. Unless you sell your car with Carvana. Get a real offer in minutes. Get it picked up from your door. Get paid on the spot. So fast, you'll wonder what the catch is. There isn't one. We just respect you and your time. Oh, you're still here? Move along now. Enjoy your day. Sell your car today.
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Are you tired of the mainstream media's coverage of the NBA?
You ever wonder about what they're hiding?
The stories that don't fit the agenda.
Do you want the truth? Do you think you can handle it? Welcome to Basketball Illuminati.
I'm Tom Haberstroh.
And I'm Amin Elhassan.
With over 2 decades of experience navigating the shadowy depths of the NBA.
We'll peel back the curtain and show you how the hidden cabal really operates.
Are you ready to be enlightened?
Basketball Illuminati podcast.
Join the illumination and keep your third eye open.
I mean, I feel like we've done so much work all season long about Wemby's height and the height fraud, trying to figure out what his true height is. And thanks to Joe Zimmerman, our guest last week, who shed some more light on this, and Jared Weiss over at The Athletic.
And Michael C. Wright.
Maybe that's well-trodden snow, and we need to find some different turf to wage battles based on Wemby.
On height?
This is Max Kellerman and Rich Paul, LeBron's agent, Clutch Sports CEO. They have a new podcast on The Ringer, and here is an excerpt from their latest pod.
You and I debate MJ, LeBron. MJ to me, number one. And I, by the way, I think decisively number one, and I think LeBron is decisively number two. However, and obviously you feel differently. However, every now and then a guy comes along and you go, can he replace LeBron one day, for example?
Replace him where?
Replace MJ one day, for example, LeBron. LeBron came along, you're like, can he, like every now and then you put your eyes on a guy and you go, maybe that dude is the one who can displace Michael Jordan at the very top. And I haven't seen that happen yet. I think LeBron's come closest.
See, but here's my question.
But what I'm saying is Wemby is the new guy who I look at and I go, I just wonder, can he be known as the best player ever one day if he stays healthy? Because his impact on the court is ridiculous.
But see,
he was not having a great game, and and they beat the Thunder.
Yes, but let me ask you a question. When I was a kid, right, and I had a ton of trophies. I was a pretty decent Muni League sports player, and I would get my trophies and I would put them up, and I would get another trophy, put it up there. I never took a trophy down. So when you talk about replace, it's like, no, Michael Jordan's up there. If someone else comes along and they go on the same shelf as Michael Jordan, which is, i.e., LeBron, you put him up there. Kobe goes up on the shelf with Michael Jordan. I now think Steph Curry goes up on the shelf with those guys.
If you think Steph Curry is on the same shelf with Michael Jordan,
I think Steph.
Are you?
Here's what I think. I didn't say Steph Curry was as good as Michael Jordan. I'm saying
they're not on the same shelf.
For what? If there's different trophies, man. It don't have to be a 7 foot. If Michael Jordan's trophy is 7 foot tall and Steph Curry's trophy is 5 feet tall, and they're on the same shelf, what does that mean?
So what I'm saying is, if Michael Jordan's trophy is 7 feet tall, and to me LeBron's trophy is 6'11", but when I looked at LeBron, I thought, is that going to be a 7'1" trophy? I look and I wound up 6'11", pretty close.
Okay, let me give you a different analogy.
Rich trying to pivot to a different analogy at the end because he realized the analogy he's chosen has gone wrong. That's podcasting, folks.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it started out pretty good. Oh, okay, so this is like a typical GOAT debate, right?
Yeah.
And then it veers into trophy height. And that's when I just got completely lost.
So I know what Rich was trying to do. Rich was trying to say, which is, to me, the only accurate answer to who the GOAT is. There is no greatest of all time in reality because everything is so influenced by what came before it, but also is advanced over what came before it. it's hard to compare because the rules change, because the style of play changes, the way the game is taught, the nutrition, travel, all these factors that the older generations were not privy to.
Right.
Is what muddles it. So Rich is trying to say they're all great, accept them all in this space.
They're all great, like all of my municipal league trophies, because I'm so accomplished as an athlete.
Right.
That are collecting dust because he never takes them down.
Max's thing is, this is Max being someone who has sharpened his sword at the grindstone that is debate television for over 2 decades. Rich opens the door by saying, oh, LeBron, if he had said Magic and Kareem, I don't think Max vehemently jumps. But Rich opens the door by saying Kobe, Steph Curry. And so Max is like, oh, we all understand that Steph Curry is not on Michael Jordan's level, does not have that kind of claim. So now we're talking about heights of trophies, which brings it back to what Max is trying to do, which is saying this one career is better than all the others. And how do we represent it? With the height of the trophy. They're on the same shelf. It ends with Rich saying, I need a different analogy. It's because he's realized this one's cooked.
Yes.
This analogy is cooked.
Now they're arguing over a 7-foot trophy versus a 6'11" trophy versus a 7'1" trophy. And how high off the ground is the shelf?
This is what I was wondering, is the unit of measurement. We're choosing to go from shelf height and also trophy height. And why is the trophy height taller than your actual height? Why did they choose 7 feet for Michael and then Wemby has to shrink?
Well, we're asking if Wemby can get to 7'1", because LeBron is 6'11".
We know he's gotten a 7'1", at least.
Oh, that's right. He's saying, oh, I got you.
Now we have to worry about trophy height fraud? How tall is his trophy actually going to be?
So wait, I mean, you're saying the analogy works because the shelf is uneven. It's an uneven shelf. There's no way to actually measure your true greatness because the shelf is 3 feet high in some places on the shelf, and then the landscape of the shelf changes, and so it's hard to even measure the size of the trophy.
No, I'm saying it's not even in the same house.
What?
Different shelves, different houses, different mantles.
Oh, so like my shelf and Maze's shelf and your shelf can't be compared because they're all different.
Different shelves.
But what if my shelf is 5 feet off the ground and Maze's 5 feet 1 inch off the ground and yours is 4 foot 11 inches off the ground?
I'm glad that you say that. So think about this. If you went to Maze's house and his shelf was a little higher than yours, would you say aesthetically he's got a better shelf?
Yes.
Or would you say it's just different?
Unequivocally.
Yeah, I think it's a better looking shelf. Yeah.
There you go.
Size matters. It does.
But how much do these trophies weigh?
Oh, come on.
Oh, that's the Zion trophy. Now we're talking.
Because, I don't know, it's weird to me that Rich Paul starts working at The Ringer and he inadvertently stumbles into a Bill Simmons column from 2012 at Grantland about how the MVP trophies, the NBA MVP trophies, should weigh different amounts based on how contested they were for the year that it was.
No way.
Yeah, third eye is open.
This isn't real.
It's a real article handicapping the NBA MVP race from April 5th, 2012. 40-pound trophy. Some examples: 2000 Shaq, 1996 Jordan, 1983 Moses. Those are 40-pound trophies.
Is that a lot or a little?
That's the most.
Whoa.
Okay.
25-pound trophy is a 1990 Magic when he edged out Jordan. A 10-pound trophy is your typical MVP trophy like Kobe in 2008. So then if you're adding up all the weights of all the MVP trophies, and then maybe you got some of them are different heights too, and it's just a whole bunch of different math, and now we're arguing over how tall they are and how much they weigh, and now we're not even arguing about basketball anymore. It's genius. Welcome to The Ringer.
My assignment: uncover why the association inspires more conspiracy theories in volume and salience than any other U.S. sport.
You've heard of the Illuminati.
The truth is out there, but so are lies.
Your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them.
The NBA has always been controlled by about 8 people.
Denial is the most predictable of all human responses.
If you're only using 10% of your brain, you don't even know that you're using 10% of your brain.
The NBA Illuminati.
If coincidences are just coincidences, why do they feel so contrived?
The Illuminati.
But you start to follow the money, and you don't know where the f*** it's going to take you.
It is unspoken. They have influence among other players.
The NBA Illuminati.
I don't have time for your convenient ignorance.
Maybe I'm a conspiracist now as well.
That's all it took. Oh, we got books, we got schools. You saw a video on YouTube.
Why my eyes, sir? You've never used them before.
We are the Basketball Illuminati.
This is Basketball Illuminati. I am Tom Haberstroh, and as always, we are joined by the 5-star Illuminati generals Amin Elhassan and producer Anthony Mays.
Members of the Illumination can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/countthedings. You can also show your support by wearing a Third Eye hat or a Basketball Illuminati shirt or hoodie. Check out the link in the show notes or go to the Count the Dings store on Cotton Bureau and keep that third eye open.
Reporting for duty. Got lots to get into today. ESPN's Vinnie Goodwill is going to join the program, going to tell us all about the NBA Cup and what he and Amin were doing when Adam Silver was at the podium. But first...
listening to The Agenda with Amin Elhassan and Tom Haberstroh.
You guys see the Clippers story written by Ramona Shelburne on ESPN.com?
Yeah, Tuesday morning dropped.
Who do you think the source was on that one? You know, the gray hairs in my beard are stripes on a general's jacket on his shoulder. And those stripes come from all the wars and all the conflicts he's seen over time and where he got deployed and when he saw. And it's so fun for me now when I read these deep dive expose kind of what I call actual news, not transactions, but this is real news reporting by Ramona Shelburne.
Mm-hmm.
The fun I get is who did the talking here? Because if you have done this enough, and when I mean done this enough, I mean what we do. When you read these articles, you absolutely can determine and decipher who talked. And I'm going to say right now, not a whole lot of Clippers staff we're talking on this one.
Well, there's a certain voice who's not mentioned in this. I did a literal Control F after reading this story for the name James Harden.
Came up a bunch, right?
Twice.
Oh.
One time saying Harden and Leonard didn't play that game.
Yeah.
That was one of the mentions. The other mention was Harden and Leonard are both great players and well-respected, but not vocal locker room leaders.
It is kind of amazing that the best player on the team, face of the team, probably an all-star this season, James Harden.
Not going to be an all-star.
Is nowhere mentioned in this article outside of, those
two mentions, yeah.
Right, that you mentioned, that I mentioned, and that you mentioned in the mentions.
You got to mention it.
But what I can deduce from that omission, coupled with the fact that, according to Ramona Shelburne's reporting here in this story, CP was pretty close with Kawhi Leonard.
To the end, to now, they're still in contact.
As close as you can be with Kawhi Leonard.
Oh, right. They're physically not close because he's been sent home.
Well, he's working out Playa Vista at the old practice facility, which I guess the NBPA bought.
The reason why I bring that up is because it feels like, man, James Harden must have hated Chris Paul so much.
Wait, you mean to tell me James Harden hated having a guy around who whined and complained and nitpicked at every little thing? And oh, by the way, this wasn't the first time he had to be around this person. You telling me that would have rubbed James on the wrong way?
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, there are some details here that when you mentioned real reporting is things that otherwise we would not have known about if it weren't for Ramona's reporting.
Yes.
There was a scene on the airplane, the team plane, where we would not have gotten this based on a transaction or a waiving of Chris Paul.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the difference between being an actual reporter and, I don't know, being general manager of a small nondescript college team in the middle of nowhere. When you can take us to the scene of Chris Paul being accused of something and Chris Paul, locker room lawyer, and I wish, Mays, I don't know if we can find it, the old True Hoop video from Sloan Sports Analytics Conference. It was me, it was Tom, and it was Ethan Strauss. And we were defining terms.
That's right.
NBA terms. One of the terms is locker room lawyer. Inside the NBA, everybody knows what that means. Avid fans are probably listening and hearing this term for the first time. A locker room lawyer is a guy, typically a very smart guy, definitely a very loquacious guy, who, through the process of lobbying and cajoling and all that, can turn the locker room opinion to his whim.
Whip up some votes.
Some locker room lawyers are some of the greatest of all time players. Some of them are 12th men. But the idea is that these guys have influence. And you have to be mindful when you have a player who is known as a locker room lawyer. You want that guy on your side. You don't want him spreading the propaganda against whatever our coach objectives or our team objectives are. So This was an excellent example of real life, real-time locker room lawyering. As Chris Paul gets told, as we know from the reporting from Chris Haynes about leeway, the whole leeway gate, where Chris Paul posts on Instagram the definition of the word leeway.
That occurred from a game against the Dallas Mavericks, their last home game they played. It was in the fourth quarter. Kawhi Leonard is on a minute restriction. And sources told me that when he was guarding Klay Thompson, he was struggling when he got into the game after sitting down for a while. He was struggling keeping up with Klay Thompson. And so there was a timeout call late in that fourth quarter. And during that timeout, Chris Paul went to Kawhi Leonard and said, hey, man, are you fresh enough? Do you feel good? Do you feel like you can stick with Klay Thompson? And he asked the teammates, he said, hey, y'all might want to switch this. Wait till he gets warm until he goes and guards Klay. Klay is killing us at that point. And so they ended up switching the matchup, the assignment. And so the next day, Jeff Van Gundy, assistant coach for the Clippers, he called a meeting with Chris Paul on the plane the next day, and he asked Chris Paul if he changed up the defensive assignment yesterday. And Chris said, no, I didn't change up the assignment. I just suggested, hey, we might want to have somebody else guarding Klay right now because Kawhi is not warm yet. And so I was told that Jeff Van Gundy told Chris Paul, listen, you might have had leeway in other places to be able to, to change up defensive coverages, but you don't have that leeway here.
Which is a semantic, lawyerly thing to do. Yeah.
Exactly. The semantics of the thing. And so in order to bolster his opinion and to kind of win this court case, he begins soliciting throughout the plane. Guys, did I say change the coverage or did I just suggest it?
Witness testimony.
Calling up character witnesses, expert witnesses. And the irony of it is, in a nutshell, that's why Chris Paul got sent home. Because in Chris Paul's mind, he's saying, they said I did this, but I didn't do this, and I can prove it. Look at all these other guys who are willing to stand up and say, he didn't do that. He didn't say that. He did this other thing. What Chris Paul is missing is what he did is the very definition of why they want his ass home. The idea that you would solicit and lobby and bring together a coalition of voices to support your opinion. That's what they don't like. It's not whether you change the coverage or not. It's that you continue to exert this influence that is not aligned with T. Lue and Jeff Van Gundy and the rest of the staff want. In that sense, that's why I find it so fascinating of who talked. Because the thing I love the most is when you could tell who talked and you could tell they thought, just look at everyone on my side, not realizing you're just confirming why this thing happened to you.
But it's worked every time in the past, Amin.
Past, you're a great player.
He's still a great player. He's got a 6'8" trophy on the shelf.
The hell he does.
Are you another executive quoted in this story? Because it says right after the plane anecdote, quote from another executive with a different team, he was a pain in the ass when he was a great player.
Yeah.
And now he's not a great player, end quote. And then there's another scene that we get from Ramona in this story is Lawrence Frank chose Atlanta for a meeting, but the meeting got pushed back because the team's flight out of Miami was delayed by 6 hours after another loss. And around 11 p.m. inside Lawrence Frank's hotel room at the Four Seasons, he told Paul of the team's plans to send Paul home, adding that he had hoped to work with Paul on how the statement would be announced and that he hoped the team would still retire Paul's jersey one day. Mm-hmm. But Paul was stunned, sources said, and tried to plead his case, locker room lawyer. At one point, he brought teammate Brooke Lopez into the room as something of a character witness.
Yeah.
Amin, as someone who's been watching a lot of Judge Judy and all sorts of courtroom dramas, how did you feel about Chris Paul's decision to bring in Brooke Lopez here? What is your analysis?
First of all, I said earlier, clearly no one in the Clippers talk. I think someone in the Clippers talk because the one constant in the story is they kind of sat him down several times like, hey, bro, you got to chill. Mm-hmm. The message was clear. In fact, after one such incident, Chris Paul asked for permission from the powers that be to address the team and apologize for his behavior. I didn't know. I didn't mean it. So those are the things that may have come from the other side. But as far as grabbing Brooke Lopez, this is locker room lawyer behavior, not realizing the judge has ruled, the gavel has been hammered, and the bailiff is bringing in the next docket. Dog, it's over. There's no pleading your case at that point. Number two, the idea that if Brooke says it, clearly we must be off base. Right?
Now, I'm going to look at this timeline here. The Atlanta game was December 3rd. By that point, Brook Lopez had been DNP coaching decision 5 straight games.
Why is Brook Lopez the voice of reason?
I don't know that he carries a lot of weight in that discussion if he's already deemed not playable, unplayable. For reasons, he might be too old, he might not be rowing in the same direction of the team, who knows? But at that point, when you're bringing in your character witness and it's Brook Lopez, it lands a little differently than if it's James Harden, for example.
Right. And again, Leonard is mentioned in the story as one of his supporters. I would think Kawhi Leonard's voice would mean something, but then I'll be honest with you, Tom. I started thinking about aspiration and all the stuff swirling around. I've said this before. We were talking actually about Ja Morant earlier this year. Ja's incongruency with the way the Grizzlies want to play. And what I said was, there are all sorts of signals that teams send that let you know how they feel about things. And in the case of Ja Morant, the idea that they would have a new system without consulting their best player, without including him in the process, without selling it to him, tells me they don't give a shit about his opinion because he's not going to last here that long anyway. I don't need to hear a trade rumor. That tells me everything I need to know right there. If you gave a shit about his opinion, the best player in the organization, you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't behave that way. Or you're just the most clueless, dumbass front office ever, which I don't think is the case of the Memphis Grizzlies, right? Same thing here. If you gave a shit about Kawhi Leonard, Lawrence Frank has been in this league a long time. Their staff, Mark Hughes, the rest of those guys, those are lifers. Those are guys who know the ins and outs of the NBA. They make a decision like this. T. Lue, maybe because he's too close to it, he's like, man, fuck that guy, get him out of here. But a front office knows. They know. And they know if, hey, what if Kawhi's upset? I don't give a fuck. At that point, you have said the voices that matter, T. Lue, which is cool, you're backing up your coach, but the other voice that matters, the one that you brought up, Tom, the one who appears only twice in the entire article. I find it interesting that when you described him, Tom, you said he's the best player. He's the face of the franchise. I was like, wait, wouldn't that be Kawhi? And that's when him apparently not anymore. And that's what happens when you miss a million games due to injuries or whatever, and this other guy plays every night. Also, we might be in the midst of the biggest cap circumvention investigation of the last 25 years, and it's because you couldn't just let $7 million, whatever it was, slide. You could just let it slide, man. It's all right. You win some, you lose some. You couldn't do that. We're in this situation in part because of that, because of a level of avarice. That might be the strongest sign. They don't give a fuck about that dude. I mean, they obviously care about him to play for them and play well, but in terms of your opinion, having weight around here does not matter. If you're Chris Paul, you're like, I got Kawhi, I got John Collins, I got Brook Lopez. You're missing the one name that has the most sway.
I also think, though, Chris Paul can go back home with the knowledge that he's right. Because look at the scoreboard. That's the thing about this sport, about sports in general, is that there's always a scoreboard, there are standings. And so he can go home and be like, I was right about that the entire time. They've lost 18 of 21 games. Mm-hmm. So as much as they want to run me out of here, throw me under the bus, and not scapegoat me, but say that word in the press release and in all the discussions, at the end of the day, they are a punchline in the NBA. And not only a punchline, they are currently second worst team in the Western Conference and just a couple games away from being the worst team in the NBA. The 30th ranked team and giving the Oklahoma City Thunder the number 1 overall pick next year. So both sides can be right. And I think Ramona did right about this, or she quoted someone by saying, like, the thing about Chris Paul is that a lot of the times he is right.
Yes, and that's what makes it annoying. Boris Diaw, hands down, one of the 5 smartest basketball minds I've ever seen. He's fucking brilliant. Boris's nickname, the team internally, not with the players, but coaching staff, front office, was yes, but. Because anything you told Boris, he would say, yes, but what about this? There's always a but in there.
Yeah, there was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We would have, ironically, almost exactly the same conversation. Hey, this is the scheme that we want to run today, and then we get out there.
Would you say Kyle Lowry also is a yes but guy and Chris Paul? So we got Boris, Kyle Lowry, and Chris Paul as yes but guys?
Right.
I like that Amin's annoyed by this.
Because I just want to finish the story.
He's above this line.
We finished this Boris Diaw story.
He's trying to be straight here. Guys, can we stop with the jokey stuff?
Plus, you guys missed the biggest of them all, which is Zion, but I digress.
He's back. He's back, Maze.
That's 2 Zion jokes.
We got him.
One for each segment. I got to work one in on the NBA Cup segment, and then I had the trifecta. So, same exact conversation. This is the defense scheme. This is what we do. We go out there. Boris does some other shit. And we watch it on film like, oh, Boris is in the wrong place, So they bring it up to Boris in the film session. Hey, Boris, you're here. You're supposed to be here, man. We talked about this. And Boris will say, yes, but if I'm here, then he's going to be here. There's a wide open layup. Otherwise, if I'm here, I can do this. And as he's talking, you realize, fuck, he's right. He's right in terms of that decision in that moment, that audible that he made was completely sound. The problem is, as a team, particularly on the defensive end, you're trying to have some sort of uniformity of schemes that we're running because 99% of the players in the league are not smart like Boris, who can audible that shit and do the progression and know he's doing the best possible calculation like Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are dumbasses who are just going to be in the wrong place and the play will blow up. And so in order for that to happen, we need everybody to adhere to it. Now, once we're in a place where everyone knows what to do, where to be, now you can start to sprinkle in a little bit of the reveries or whatever you want to do. But until you get that, if you're always getting someone who's doing their own thing, even when their own thing is the right thing, it makes it really hard to have a cohesive scheme.
It makes sense. You need to have wild cards only in structured situations.
Some people are going to walk away from this and say scoreboard, say the Clippers suck, and clearly the way they're doing it wasn't right, so maybe they should have listened to Chris Paul. And I get it, but those are all kind of the opinions based off of, I don't need to know what's happening. I just need to look at the record and say, oh, you fucking suck. But this league is built on something a lot more complicated, systems that are a lot more complicated. And without those appropriate checks and balances, you have chaos. And that's why locker room lawyers, you have to know what you're getting into. And the story takes great pains of the Clippers thinking they had a handle on the situation.
Yep.
But clearly they didn't. Because again, like the guy said, you knew who he was. The tiger doesn't change stripes, he just changes jungles.
In the same house, different jungle.
What height is the mantle of the shelf in this jungle versus...
How wide are the stripes?
Yeah. Well, he was talking, he has gray-haired stripes. Amin does.
I have stripes, and I have gray hair, so...
I think the funniest part of this whole debacle to me is the semantics over what talking is.
Oh, right.
How Chris Paul said he didn't talk to me, and then Ty Lue says, yeah, we talked.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be impossible to coach him without talking. I told him to go in the game. I told him to guard this person. And then Chris Paul says, no, I wanted a meeting, a heart-to-heart. It sounded like a relationship. What do you mean we're not talking?
Yeah.
We're talking every day.
Lord knows I've had one of those where it's like, I haven't heard from him. I'm like, what are you talking about? We've exchanged Instagram reels several times a day, every day. That's talk. That's communicating. No. I mean, a text. I'm like, who cares what the medium is? Whether it's a text message or it's a DM, communication occurred. We're playing semantics here.
What reels are Chris Paul sending to Ty Lue, you were wondering?
That's all clips of like, hey, you guys should have done it this way.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the story was at the end, Chris Paul's like, yes, Ty Lue still hasn't talked to me. So they asked Ty Lue, hey, why haven't you talked to Chris Paul since the dismissal or whatever? He didn't call me either. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that's a mean formula. 1,000%. I've pulled that one so many times.
That is the ultimate foist. I'm here.
You've never called.
All you have to do is call me. I'll pick up. We can talk.
You never called me. You've never called me either.
Checkmate.
Why is this my responsibility?
In that instance, I'm curious, since you've been in the front office for an NBA team, who is more responsible if things are so broken in terms of the relationship, the player to the coach? I'm thinking about Jonathan Kuminga here with Steve Kerr.
Oh, boy.
And we can go another hour on that. But
JK.
Is it incumbent on the coach to physically call, press the button, call Jonathan Kuminga and have that conversation? Or is it on Jonathan Kuminga to say, hey, coach, knocking on the door, listen, we need to talk? Who needs to initiate that conversation?
Here's the problem, right? Because this is where we get into a place of mixed incentives. Steve Kerr's immediate incentive is to win games. Steve Kerr thinks that the best way to win games is to use these guys in this way. There's no incentive for Steve Kerr to see the silver lining on Jonathan Kuminga. The only thing that can compel him to feel that way is a front office intervention. This guy needs to play. You need to figure it out, Steve Kerr, 4-time champion as a head coach. He's an older guy. His kids are all grown. He didn't need this shit. There's a part of this where it's like, fuck it. All right, you want to play him? Play him. I quit. I've done it all. I've won at every level. I will be remembered as one of the best coaches in the history of this game. And I got to coach one of the best players in the history of this game. How high on the shelf, how high of a trophy, I don't know. But the idea that you can pressure Steve Kerr to play someone, I'm talking about the real pressure that happens in most front offices. Play this motherfucker, or that's your ass. You can't. So Jonathan Kuminga, who might feel wronged, who knows that he has organizational support upstairs, maybe even at the highest level. We know that Joe Lacob loves JK. from his standpoint, he's like, no, he got it, da-da-da. But hey, man, do you want to play or not? You kind of have to be the one. If the front office cannot compel Steve to be the one, and at that point, the player has to go in there and say, what do you need me to do? Let me do that. And hopefully from there, we can reach a starting point. But I think this is 5 years in. It's pretty obvious what Steve needs from him. It's pretty obvious the kid either doesn't want to or doesn't know how to do that. And so bringing it back to Chris Paul and Ty Lue's similar to Steve Kerr, not the same amount of success on his resume, but still really successful and clearly influential within the organization to an extent where I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. I don't need you. I've already seen a vision of our success, our trajectory, our strategy moving here, and it doesn't include you. I don't need you. I've decided that you are unnecessary to our success. And so Chris Paul has to knock on the door and say, hey, coach, because here's the thing. On an NBA team, you can't avoid people. If you really want to talk to the coach, we're walking on the plane. Guess where I'm sitting? Right next to you. If I'm Chris Paul, I really want to talk to Ty Lue. Would I like it to be in private? Would I like to be over a glass of wine? Sure. I'm sitting in that seat. We're going to talk about this unless we want to play this passive-aggressive game.
Clearly, this episode is about the units of measurement.
Height of shelves.
And the direction of conversation. You know, when you pick up the phone and you look at the missed calls or the direction of the arrow, whether you called them or they called you. Mm-hmm. And if you look at a histogram, a bar chart of times we talked on the y-axis and on the x-axis, you have certain bars that are text messages. Mm-hmm. Coaching play calls.
Well, Tom, how tall is that conversation? You know, is it a short conversation? Is it a 6-inch conversation? Or is it a 6-foot conversation?
And how much meaning, or shall we say weight, to that conversation?
Yeah.
Would you say there was in those X's and O calls?
That's very important.
Are we on the ringer now?
You all think I'm late. Well, I'm not late. And I'm going to stay right here and fight for this lost cause, even if this room gets filled with lies like these. And the Taylors and all their armies come marching into this place. Somebody will listen to me.
There's no better way to overpower a trickle of doubt than with a flood of naked truth.
But the complexity and the gray lie not in the truth, but what you do with the truth once you have it.
What is true and right is true and right for all.
You and I both know that that's just not the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
Too messy. Keeps them up nights.
I'm here because in the end, the truth is worth the risk.
Speak a little truth and people lose their minds.
I'm a grown man, you can tell me the truth.
Why is it people who want the truth never believe it when they hear it?
So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something really outrageous. I'm going to tell the truth.
Vinnie Goodwill from ESPN, my former colleague over at Yahoo, joins us now without Amin. And this is, I feel like there might be something here. Is there something here? Is there a reason why you and him are not here together? Like, did something happen in Vegas?
He's still alive.
Are we sure?
Are we? I'm sure he was supposed to join us today, and then suddenly he fell off and he ducked out. I'm just wondering, like, things happen in Vegas and they stay in Vegas. So I don't know if your lips are sealed on something that happened when
No. If something happened, I am not aware of it. So I'm very happy to be here with you guys.
Yeah. Well, we so much happened at the NBA Cup final that I didn't catch watching it, and then all of the Josh Hart stuck his thumb up.
You want to start with this, Tom?
No, I don't know where I want to start, but that was one of the things that popped in my head was every time we want to talk about the game, something weird happens, and then we got to like discuss that. So it's just, I don't know. And then New York doesn't want to put up the banner, and I'm just like, man, these games are great, and yet here we are talking about this stuff. So I'm doing the thing, Vinny, that we're not supposed to be doing, which is.
Are you surprised that Jim Dolan is thumbing his nose at the league? Have you not seen his movies? That would be a conspiracy if he did put up the banner, to be perfectly honest with you. So, no, I'm not surprised at all that the Knicks aren't doing that, even though Mike Brown was saying we're going to put up a banner at MSG. I think they better be putting up a different banner come May, or at least come next October. They better put up some type of banner. Maybe not the big banner, but maybe the second biggest banner. I think that had better be on the docket.
If they put up let's say an Eastern Conference Championship banner, will they put up the NBA Cup banner as well?
Oof,
or are we going to forget about it?
No, they have an Atlantic Division banners up there, but they won't put up an NBA Cup banner.
Well, I think what happens is we're not yet at the point in our sort of, NBA, fandom, follow them, whatever it is, that the NBA Cup has become like a yearly part of what we think. Like, we still think of the regular season as the regular season. It's still new. Like, it takes about 10, 15 years maybe before we get used to seeing a world where there is no NBA Cup. I will say that the play-in tournament has become easily one of those things that you think about now. You're thinking about, you got to get to the top 6. And instead of the 7, 8, 9, 10 thing, like that has become a strategic part of how we evaluate an NBA season. And that caught on relatively easy. So maybe the Cup will, but the play-in is attached to the playoffs. So this is kind of a standalone thing. I think if the Cup were something that says, you're guaranteed home court in the playoffs if you win it. Like, if it were that level of incentive to it, then I think maybe we would take it a little more seriously. Maybe the teams would take it a little more seriously in terms of what the winning the Cup symbolizes.
Yeah, it's weird because I actually love the Cup. I love the idea of the Cup to gin up some sort of interest into the calendar at this point in the season. It's good. I think it's good. The issue is, I think the NBA's had a tough time selling it to people, in either whether it's media or James Dolan or Giannis Antetokounmpo last year, who refused to celebrate because they had bigger goals to win a championship and almost diminished and belittled the NBA Cup prestige in the same way that James Dolan's just like, yeah, we're not going to put up a banner for this. I'm sorry, Adam. You and I don't see eye to eye on this either. But you were there. So tell us, what was your experience at Vegas at this particular NBA Cup with the Knicks fans there? I saw that the Spurs flew out some fans out to the arena. What was your experience for the NBA Cup final? You were there for the whole for the semis as well?
Yeah, from Thursday to yesterday. And if you are not a Vegas person, then 48 hours in Vegas, it's like Dennis Rodman, 48 hours in Vegas. That's just as much time as I need there. I will say, when you first get there, or when the games began on Saturday afternoon, that arena did not look full at all. It was the Orlando Knicks game. And when the first game started at like 2:30 Vegas time, it felt like a bad summer league game type of feel to it. And then by the third quarter, you look around, you're like, this thing is kind of filled up a little bit more. And then the Oklahoma City San Antonio game felt full and big from the start. Like that, full stop. That felt like a bigger game with bigger stakes and everything else. And I think so much of that has to do with San Antonio being back on the NBA stage after years of being away from it, and you're being introduced not just to Victor Wembanyama, who we all know, but so many of these other players and pieces that we haven't paid much attention to because we haven't had to pay attention to it. So by the time Tuesday came along, it's like, this thing is big. You mentioned the Spurs having like a section of their fans. It felt like, look, Tom, you live in a college town. You know what it's like when the Cameron Crazies, or I don't know if Wake Forest has the equivalent of something like that, the student section, in Michigan, Michigan State is called the Izzone, like with the chants and all the different things. Like, for people who maybe don't remember the Brooklyn Nets when they had a modicum of relevancy, like they have a fan section that would just chant a bunch of different things for the entire game. And you thought with that, man, this is like something big. And then you turn around and the Knicks go on a run, and then you hear the fans of the Knicks like really show up. So I say all that to say the game itself felt bigger than your average regular season game in December. And if that's what the NBA wanted, the NBA actually achieved its goal. And I don't think they need to be in a rush to move to other places. You got to let this simmer and build for a minute, I think.
So why are they thinking about moving it?
I wonder if it's just a leverage play, to be perfectly honest, because selling one, you got to get the media to be excited about it. You got to get fans to be excited about it. If you're going to some of the hallowed sort of college grounds or whatever it is, I don't think the media is going to be excited about spending a weekend at the Residence Inn in Durham. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get someone like me to be happy. Oh yeah, let's go to Cameron Indoor Stadium where they've done some questionable things there over the years. You know what I'm saying? Like, those fans aren't exactly.
Also, the weird thing about Cameron Indoor, Vinny, is that the Cameron Crazies make Cameron Indoor. It is a small gym, yes, and the hoops fall from the ceiling in ways that might be disorienting for NBA players. Not to say that they haven't played in really weird gyms around the country, but it's if you're trying to recreate the vibe of the Cameron Crazies, what are you gonna hire a bunch of college kids to be fans of the Knicks for one weekend and then half the fans of the Spurs? It's weird. It seems like a very appropriation of the Duke experience for the NBA that doesn't feel like it's going to be at all authentic if they try to do that.
Don't forget where Adam Silver went to school.
Yeah.
Don't forget who's also one of Adam Silver's biggest advisors, Mike Krzyzewski. You know what I mean? Like, it's very easy to draw the line there. And the NBA, to their credit and also to their detriment, guys, they're very quick to pivot if they think something isn't working, right? And sometimes you gotta let it, like for me, I understand the criticism of the NBA Cup. Because basically you're telling fans is the regular season on a night-to-night basis is not good enough for you. And I don't think that's the message that you should be selling to your fans, because if this is bigger, inherently everything else is smaller. So what else do you have to sell from December 16th to April 16th? You don't want to devalue your 6-month regular season marathon. I believe the story building of the regular season is a story in itself that the NBA doesn't have to devalue by saying, man, we need to make this thing right here bigger. But also because they listen to Twitter, you know what I mean? Because Adam Silver hears about the extender and Scott Foster and everything else. And he was actually asked about that in his press conference yesterday. I believe Tanya Gangwili asked him that. And he kind of flinched. Yeah. He kind of flinched, like his facial expression. I'm sure the camera was on Tanya's face, but my camera was on Adam Silver, and he looked like Judge Doom in that moment. You know what I mean? Like, remember Judge Doom from Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Like, that's what he kind of, his face kind of scrunched up, and he was not happy with the insinuation. But we know where that line of thinking comes from. We know that the NBA has its ear to the ground in a way that no other professional sport here in the States actually pays attention to, because they have their own stakes in the ground and they understand who they are. The NBA sometimes feels like they don't believe in their own product.
Yeah, and that seems like a bad thing, because tinkering too much, take the All-Star game, for example, has not worked out. They keep changing it before we even really know the result. So that's why it's a little surprising to hear that they're thinking of taking what felt like, from the outside, a very successful, definitely the most successful NBA Cup, and throwing in, well, we might not be back here in Vegas next year. We might take this on the road to different college campuses. They already have in place that the number 1 seed will host the semifinals, so it would only be the final, or the quarterfinals, so only the final would be at a final site.
They can't go to Dubai or they can't fly across the world for one game. So I think we can throw that out, right? Right, Vinny? Or am I misreading that?
Well, think about it like this. My only issue with the cup, and not to give not that the Knicks need any advocacy here, but the Knicks go right from playing in this high stakes game on Tuesday to Thursday being on the front end of back-to-back against the Pacers, then Friday playing at home against Philadelphia. Like, where's the incentive necessarily for them to do this when you got to go right back into the rigors and then right back into a road home back-to-back? Like, that's the worst type.
And they don't get the win.
And you don't even get the win. You get the money, and clearly you're incentivized, for the money. And it's a weird thing, guys, right? Like, I tend to believe, I don't have a problem with if you're a home team and you want to play that game on your home floor, whatever it is, cool, because you can't stretch the schedule out anymore to give yourself even more of a break before going into Vegas, because you want fans of that home team to be able to plan to fly into Vegas and to spend potentially 4 days and 2 ticket seats and everything that goes into Las Vegas as a tourist attraction. You have to invest a lot of money there, even if it's going to be just for 3 or 4 days. So I understand that you don't want to stretch it out even longer just to give your fans a chance, but stretching out even longer gives your teams less of an opportunity on the back end to get a reasonable amount of rest before they go right back to the regular NBA schedule. You're trying to, lack of a better phrase, serve a bunch of masters that aren't really running parallel with each other.
Let me ask you this, because I've been at Adam Silver's press conference with ESPN, where we're kind of like, all right, if you get the mic, make sure you ask this question, because we're all trying to jockey for the mic and want to get it in there. If there's only 5 questions, you never know if you're going to get your question answered. So how did you land on your question, which I should have texted you, like, dude, awesome question. I wanted that to be one of the questions that he got, is the topic of injuries and Achilles tears and calf strains and soft tissue injuries. How did you land on that one? And did you expect it to be like as quickly off the top as you were? And were you like, oh, should I ask about aspiration or something else? Like, what was your thinking?
Well, pull behind the curtain. When you mess with the league about, hey, none of the black people here ask questions, then you wind up being, hey, guess what? Guess what, black guy? We're coming to you.
Cut the line.
So you kind of have in your head, like, honestly, for me, it was between like 3 things that I wanted to ask Adam Silver about, because you only get so many opportunities to get in front of the commissioner and then on the record spot. Like, you get them sometimes off the record and you can chat with them and everything else. Like, there were 3 things top of mind for me. One was the soft tissue injuries and the games that it was caused and everything else. The second thing, honestly, for me was, which is tied to this, the pace of play being so fast that I think it just throws the game out of whack and out of balance. Not necessarily from the standpoint of like numbers and scoring 140 points a night and everything else, but just it feels like defenses don't have a chance anymore. And when you look at the greatest offensive efficiencies in NBA history, they're all in the past 2 or 3 years. Yeah. That just feels like the game is out of balance. And then the third thing was, I don't know where you guys sit on this, it was a perfectly illustrated in one of the games where, the Spurs Thunder game, where you go up 3 and it's the last 30 seconds, nobody gets a chance to tie. Like, what are we doing here? You can have 47 glorious minutes of a game, and then the last 30 seconds turns into this ugly, ugly slog of strategy and fouling and everything else. Like, I thought about that, and then I just landed on the soft tissue stuff just because it affects more stars. It gets to grassroots of the NBA, grassroots of professional sports, more of a broader picture. And I felt like because there was a myriad of different directions that Adam could have went, he could have talked about shortening the season, which I don't agree with. He could have talked about a bunch of different things. I wanted to give him the space to answer that question in that manner.
Yeah, he didn't bring up the shortening of the season. I don't think.
Thank the good Lord. I know you want to shorten the season. I know you are an advocate. I don't. And can I tell you why?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to stop these guys from playing basketball in the in-between time. Like, it's like these guys are still going to play basketball in the offseason. Basketball never stops. You see it on T-shirts and everything else. And one thing that I've gotten from multiple team doctors, which I found really fascinating, they say that players only play high-impact basketball now in basketball games. So their bodies are not used to the stress that comes on your bodies. Before, you could play and then practice the next day and your body's kind of gets calloused and used to it and everything else, and maybe a little bit preventative. But now if you're only pushing yourself during these 48 minutes because you got to stay off your feet, because you're not going to practice and everything else, then your body may not be used to such things. And maybe that adds to some of the soft tissue injuries or the ankle sprains or whatever it is. I don't know the answer, but I'm not sure if shortening the game, shortening the season becomes an answer, because then what happens if injuries continue? Then you got to shorten it again. I can't see that being an exact answer for where things are going to land.
Yeah, I feel like if we do the pizza pie and we kind of figure out what is the factors to blame all the injuries happening. I think you could, like you said in your question, astutely mention that the grassroots and how many miles and the specialization coming into the league, they're already kind of behind the 8 ball in that sense.
Yep.
I think there's that. I think the pace of the league and how fast and the geometry of the game is a pretty big slice of the pie.
They got to cover a lot of space, a lot more space now.
Oh my God.
So much space you can't leave a space on the floor unoccupied anymore.
Man, Brandon Payne, I don't think it was in the article, but Brandon Payne, Steph Curry's trainer, mentioned something to me that really stuck in my head, guys, is like, it's not the 3-point shot, just about the 3-point shot. It's also by stretching these 3-pointers, the runway is longer for drives. So you're going full speed faster down the paint, and then you got to stop. Like you think about Giannis, and you think about Shea, you think about Luka, and they all have to come and stop, slam on these brakes. If you're going from foul line to the hoop, you're not able to go as fast. But now they're going half court. They got a high going downhill from half court, and you're like, oh yeah, I never really considered that like the geometry of the game when you're stretching out the 3-point line and these actions are happening near half court now, you are building up more speed, which actually adds to more force on your joints when you got to stop at the rim. And it just feels like there's more force and intensity on those movements, partially because the 3-point shot is so prevalent, but also because downhill drives now, it's just so much power going into those.
Well, I will say this, because I've been a proponent of bringing back the hand check for that very reason, because you don't get a chance to generate as much momentum going downhill as you did before. And if you allow more physicality in the paint, it's more sudden contact as opposed to wind up. When there's wind up, it's like a car accident, right? And if you break, the people who brace themselves get hurt in a car accident. If you see a car accident coming, you naturally break. Like it's been to me. Like I saw, oh shit, a car's coming. I braced myself, and the drunk driver or the person who stole the car, well, it was a drunk driver, it was a stolen person. He didn't feel anything because he didn't see me. You know what I mean? Like when you get a chance to.
It is a weird thing, right? Yeah. In car accidents, if you are tense up and you grip the wheel or turn it or whatever it is, you're going to be more prone to more serious injuries than someone who just gets blindsided.
So compare that to when you're coming downhill and you're going to take contact. Yeah, that car is going 70 miles an hour compared to if you got that hand check on your hip, you don't get a chance to go as fast, as quick. You have to be more quick than you have to be fast. And I think that in some degree, is more aesthetically pleasing because you're playing defense on all Madden as opposed to all rookie like we are playing. And like you said, it lessens the heaviness of the impact. Because you're just dealing with impact all up and down the floor.
Vinny wants more points or more games, hand checking. He wants to beat these people up so that they get callous, they get tough. Yeah. And then they won't get injured.
No, he doesn't want more points. He wants more defense and physicality. That's what he wants.
I want the points to matter.
Yeah.
I want if you score 30, I want to know, like I had a talk with a player once who's considered an ethical player. I will just say that. And he said, would you rather have 50 or an ethical 30? And I said, honestly, I would want you to have an ethical 30 because not everybody can get it. But if you're getting 50 when everybody else is getting 40, how do I know that this is special?
So Victor said that to you?
Victor did not say that. It was not someone as tall. It was not someone as tall, but it was an ethical player.
Yeah. I think it's a fascinating thing, especially coming from baseball and sabermetrics and all this stuff where it's like the nerds win when the spray charts and everything strike out home runs and walks and you're like, yeah, we won. And then no one's watching the game anymore. And it's like, did you really win if no one cares about your sport anymore? And so they needed to put in the shifts
and everything. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, I remember someone was telling me, like how they hate it. I think it was Mike Schur. He hates the shift. No. Mike Schur was arguing that it was one or the other. This is probably bad that I don't know which side of the argument he was on, but the side of the argument that convinced me was if the nerds win and they're positioning the players to where the ball is more likely going to be hit rather than in the traditional locations on the field, there's never going to be any action in the game because they're just going to be right in front of the ball and then they catch it and throw the guy out. What we want is plays, like actual baseball happening. And so in the same way with the NBA, it's like I feel like a lot of times the defense doesn't have a chance.
Yeah. And what are you watching it for? Like that's when it gets down to the core of basketball, whether if you're a fan, like at the core of this, before I became a journalist, I was a basketball player, a basketball fan. Are you watching this to see who can out-strategize the other, who can take advantage of the rules? Are you watching this for the pure competition? And pure competition looks completely different than trying to outgame the game. You know what I mean? Like if you're playing Monopoly and you want to be in it, then there's a certain amount of strategy that you're using. But if you're playing against somebody that's not trying to play it for like necessarily the enjoyment, but they're just trying to play it for the strategy of it, it don't feel as fun. Even if you win, it doesn't feel as fun because it doesn't feel pure. Like some of the best basketball games, pickup or not, that I've ever played in was not the games where everybody was hitting shots. It was the game where you just felt like, man, we got to earn it. And sometimes those games don't necessarily look aesthetically pleasing. Like I know that we hate on that Lakers Celtics game 7 from 2010. Like now because it was 80, 89, 83 or whatever it was, which is now a score at halftime of NBA games. But
every possession mattered. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
It felt there were real stakes to every time they got the ball. Yeah.
And if we're saying you want every game to matter, but you don't want any possession, you don't want every possession to matter because a 10-point lead means nothing now, right? You go up 10, that's 2 possessions and you're right. That's Jordan Clarkson going on a quick heater. You know what I mean? Like I want it to matter. Maybe I'll make basketball great again. Do I need like a red hat or something like that?
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe I shouldn't.
We can get that done for you, Vinny.
Yeah, we can get that.
I don't want to co-opt that phrase and it turn into something that is not meant to.
Vinny, what about Elam ending? Because I got to be honest, I watched TBT in the summertime and I am hype every time there's a target score. And for all the people out here who are like, it's not intuitive, it's kind of this gimmick thing. And I'm like, is pickup a gimmick? Because if you play pickup, every game is to a target score. And if you've been to a pickup game and you're down 3 or down 2, you're playing a lot closer defense when you know there's a game on the line. Like no shooters, whatever it is.
No twos, yeah. You're not giving up any twos. Yeah.
No twos, and everyone's getting into it defensively because they know the game is on the line. And so when I watch, like, it might be washed up guys like from Ohio State alums versus Kentucky alums, but the place is on fire. The gym, everyone's standing with every play. They're going nuts. Everyone's on pins and needles watching the last, 5 possessions going back and forth because every game ends on a game winner. And watching OKC San Antonio, why does 47 minutes of the game have to be awesome? And then when most people are watching, casual fans are watching, I got to turn on the game. There's like 5 minutes left. It's a 2-point game. It's the worst part about the game. It's the worst part about basketball is a free throw contest. So I'm curious, where are you at on Elam ending, or is that too much of a gimmick in your mind?
I would say at first blush, it would be too much, too radical. If I'm saying let's flesh it out, then my sort of line of demarcation might be not 12 minutes. I don't want the final fourth quarter to be that because it takes away some of the general beauty of the game. If you're telling me in the last 3 minutes, scoring 10 points from that point or whatever it is,
okay, 10 points to the team in the league. Yep.
As opposed to 12 minutes because you're taking away from the structural integrity of the game. Here's my thought, because it's only the last minute or 30 seconds that really gets under my skin. If you take a foul intentionally, 1 shot plus the ball, because then it goes to guard your man.
Mm-hmm.
But then, I brought this up to someone from the league office yesterday, and he said, you know what, players would find a way to make it not look so obvious, and then it puts it in the hands of the referees and everything else. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I agree with you, but this can't be it.
Yeah, this is suboptimal for sure.
That was an excellent game for 47 minutes and 30 seconds. And I don't think a team has to play perfect for 47 minutes and 30 seconds to say that they don't deserve a reasonable chance to send this game into overtime, not just for the teams, but for the fans. And if you can defend your man, defend your man.
Mm-hmm.
Play ball. Don't play foul. Play ball.
Fouls are meant to be penalized, not incentivized, right? So as soon as you're fouling on purpose to gain an advantage, then we need to realign our incentives. And
I have a saying that I tell all the league people, and they don't like it when I say it. I send it in the text though, and I say it like poke them. I say, tell Adam to fix your league. Like that hashtag fix your league.
Yeah.
He's trying. He's changing everything all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, were you guys a fan of the play? Were y'all a fan of the play-in? I was not. And then when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, this is great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The play-in for sure was better, well received after the first year. And I think it's a mainstay. I think it's great. I do think that the NBA Cup is a harder sell because it's I think the troubling thing is there's like little, it's clunky. It's clunky is the best way to put it. It doesn't count towards your record. The stats don't count in the championship, right? And then it's interspliced within the regular season. And so even when I do Blazers games, you know, you kind of have to remind yourself, okay, what are the rules again? Like, all right, so it's point differential and a tiebreaker, but it's round robin. So the Blazers were up until the last minute. They were going to come out of Group C, interestingly enough. And I had to remind myself as the expert, what's at stake here? And if I'm the expert and I'm having to remind myself what are the stakes of this game and the things that the Blazers need to do in order to be coming out of this group, I can only imagine how the fans are like, I don't get it. Like, what is it again? So that's where I come in and I'm like, I think the idea is real. I really like the idea of having an in-season tournament, 32 teams expansion, 32 teams in a tournament is, I think, the goal. But they got to kind of figure out how to integrate it into the season, and it's awkward. It's clunky.
How about this? And it doesn't change the clunkiness of it, but it adds the incentive. How about you make, starting from the semifinals, have that be the number one tiebreaker in terms of playoffs. If you, through the regular season, if you have made it to the semifinals, that is your tiebreaker over the next team, or if you got the same record or whatever it is. And if you win that final game, even though it doesn't count towards 82, let's say the Spurs and the Lakers, which could happen, or the Spurs and the Rockets, they are all tied at 55 wins. Well, the Spurs got to the Cup championship. They didn't win it, but they got there. That gives them the tiebreaker.
Which means that it essentially works as a
first round. What if you make the playoffs and get home court?
I thought about that too, but 9 times out of 10, I think did the Bucks have home court in the first round last year against Indiana?
The Lakers did it, though.
6.
Well, in the same way that how often does the tiebreaker come up for you to care about it? The Bucks were a 5 seed last year.
Okay, that's what it is for. Okay. But had they won it, think about it. If that's the tiebreaker, it flips.
Mm-hmm. What if you get to choose your opponent?
Ooh. I am
Do teams want that? Do teams want that? Like, I would wonder, would teams want to choose their opponent, or do you think that creates more of a?
Then you choose your opponent and they beat you. And that looks great.
I mean,
here's fun.
We love drama, right? Like the storyline is, hey, the Knicks got their first round, and this is who they're choosing for their opponent. Now, I like that because it still keeps the
Yeah, right. Would you want to have that power to choose your opponent, or do you feel like, that's adding? No, they're gonna have a chip on their shoulder. Like,
it's funny. I'm a traditionalist who had like 2 radical ideas, or at least one big radical idea. The radical idea I had before, which I think is like 2017 or 18, was to prevent tanking, set the lottery odds at mid-season.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So then you got to play the rest of the season out no matter what it is. And then the ping pong ball, you have no say from that point on. Now, maybe you wind up tanking the last 10 games going into, from 30 to 40 or whatever it is, but you have to play the last 40 games with real integrity, regardless of what happens. So I'm not a total just traditionalist and staunch, because people are always going to try to take advantage of it.
Sure.
So I think to that one, I didn't like the idea at first, but if it's tied to incentive, if you're going to incentivize the cup, then have it be that. Have it be that. Pick your opponent and live with the consequences.
Yeah. It would juice it up.
Pick the Hawks for first round. Pick Trae Young and deal with it. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Or pick the Celtics. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is. You don't think Jason Tatum is playing, so you think it's going to be a easier win. Whatever it is. Because I guarantee you, think about the story, like no matter if you're a 1-8 or if it's a 4-5 or whatever it is, like that's the series that the NBA will, maybe that's the Amazon series. If Amazon is sponsoring whatever, you know what I mean? Like maybe that's the series that draws everybody in because you've said you can't beat me. Mm-hmm. Or at least at the very least, I want you.
I think the NBA should introduce the pick your own opponent like right away. With you get the number 1 seed, you get to pick your opponent. Number 2 seed, you get to pick your opponent. Number 3 seed, you get to pick your opponent, and then the 4, 5 go head to head. Now Adam Silver he covered a bunch of different topics in the press conference. Anything in that you because he talked about expansion and the idea of like we gotta wrap this up 2026. There was other stuff, whether he's going to jump into WNBA talks, CBA talks. Interestingly enough, there was not I don't think there was aspiration addressed in this one. Terry Rozier was addressed. Anything else that you feel like you walked away being like, I'm glad we had that discussed and Adam had a particular interesting answer to that?
Well, the crazy thing is because me and Amin were sitting next to each other, so we're like the two bad kids trading notes back and forth to each other while Adam is talking because we don't want to be caught, that type of thing.
You guys were writing little notes to each other
on a notes app, absolutely, absolutely, definitely the two badass kids next to each other, and we're the two black dudes sitting next to each other too. So it's like we're sticking out. And the thing about Adam is that Adam has X amount of minutes. And he's going to lawyer it up. He is going to filibuster. So it only looks like we have like 5 questions. And maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was 6 questions. I think Monica might have asked the last one about the WNBA stuff.
Yep.
So I think for me, the expansion thing, which I thought was kind of a non-issue at this point, because Adam had just been saying the same thing for the past 4 or 5 BOG meetings about, it's something we're looking at. We got a committee, we got some indicators that indicate and just never went into it. And this time it kind of felt like he wanted us to know. He wanted us to know that there is a shot clock on this. Ain't gonna be no Elam ending on this expansion talk. Like there is a shot clock on this and we're going to have this either once or for all. Maybe that's him putting pressure on the fellow owners to say, hey, guys, let's get this in. Okay, let me back that up. Adam Silver works for the owners. Mm-hmm. He is not putting pressure on them. Now, David Stern, those guys worked for David. That's a little David was the emperor. Adam is a little bit more of a manager of people. But I think it was a message he wanted to get sent out. And part A, so we can stop asking the questions. And B, so these franchises, these cities will stop feeling like they're getting teased and kicked down the road, only to get maybe kicked in the nuts later. You know what I mean? So I think,
or a thumb up the butt. Yeah, from
Josh Hart. I didn't say that at all. And
I mean, you said kick in the nuts. I mean,
yeah, I feel like that's more. You can see that in a cartoon. You can see someone get kicked in the groin and it be okay. You don't really see someone getting a big old.
I saw it last night on Amazon at the celebration.
Not FCC airwaves.
Jalen was like, yeah, and he cussed on the air, which was great.
Oh, did he see? I didn't see. I was waiting in the post game, but yeah, I think the expansion thing for me, and I wonder, you might have space for one franchise. I wonder, do you have the space for 2? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, because I wonder, and I won't say anybody's prying for relocation, but I do think you need some conference realignment. I think I wonder if the Minnesota Timberwolves should be in the Eastern Conference as opposed to. Yeah, I suppose.
So. Yeah, I mean, if they add Seattle and Las Vegas, that.
But see, I don't know if you need to add 2. But the problem is you want to keep it.
You can't have an odd-numbered league, though.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Sure you can.
The league used to have 23 teams.
Okay.
Is
so we're
baseball or football?
We're snapping the pool cue and we're dropping it between Vegas and Seattle. You guys figure it out who wins?
Oh, no, I was going to Seattle. In my opinion, I think Seattle is a more viable basketball market than Vegas. I think when you look at Vegas as a football market, that's one of those places where the Vegas Raiders play 8 away games, and then 8 away games that are at home.
Yeah.
And if they're doing that for 8, I don't know how much you can viably deduce that you're going to play 41 or 40 or whatever it is. That's a big time investment. And
I feel like if they were there early, then I think they would have more ability to carve out their territory there. But it kind of feels like, oddly enough, the NBA is late to Vegas.
Well, think about it. The NBA was early to Charlotte and then was late to Charlotte, right? They were the first pro sports to get to Charlotte. And then when the George Shinn stuff happened and the attendance dropped and then they left, then all of a sudden the Carolina Panthers got there and NASCAR got there and the Hurricanes got there. And then by the time they came back, they were no longer the NBA league leader in attendance like they were for the first 6 or 7 or 8 years of their existence because people had many more options.
Mm-hmm. FC, like all my buddies, they all want to go to FC rather than Hornets games right now because that is a really fun atmosphere here, and they're pretty good, which is a good way to get people to go watch these games and pay good money to season tickets is if you're really good, and the Hornets haven't been really good in a long time.
Shocker.
Yeah. What about the Terry Rozier thing? I thought he wasn't as prepared to answer that one as I thought he might be. Is like, what do we do with Terry Rozier and Tim Reynolds? That was the first question.
That's the first question. Yeah.
I don't see why they would prohibit the Heat from trading him. It's just a matter of the Heat having the ability to find a suitor for his contract. But I just feel like I don't think the NBA can step in that case. I mean, Kevin Porter Jr. is what, like 2 years ago, last year?
Yeah, I think it's less about trading him and more about the pick that's supposed to convey that Adam is having a hard time with. And I think to some degree, he's saying a deal's a deal. Like, I'm not going to walk in. And I'm thinking, I haven't spoken with him about this specifically, even for like background. I think he's hesitant to dip his toe in that. Someone amongst the media yesterday says, Adam spoke about that as if something else is coming down. And I'm like, I didn't hear that, but I have to go back and watch and listen. But this is somebody that's pretty astute. And he kind of whispered it to me. He was like, do you think Adam is leaving the door open for something else to have happened in that spot that's going to make this decision easy for him? And I have no idea if that actually means anything, but it just made my ears perk up a little bit because what happens for the next thing? And if it feels like Adam doesn't want to operate as commissioner in this case, he wants this thing to kind of adjudicate itself. I came with the suggestion, guys, that Adam should use his powers as NBA commissioner to call the Clippers Thunder trade fully adjudicated. No more picks going either way. This thing is done. That horse is beat dead. The Clippers are dead. The Thunder are living. How about you just say no more swaps, no more picks? That trade is we're done with it.
Yeah. I see the slippery slope idea is like if you're
I'm being firmly tongue in cheek, but I'm also like if Adam did it, that would that would make the NBA a lot more level. You know what I'm saying?
I thought it was interesting when he said, "I've talked to Chris, but I haven't talked to Steve." Chris Paul.
I haven't talked to Steve about this.
Right? And it just goes to
what
show.
What is he supposed to say?
They got enough other things to talk about.
Chris Paul this way.
I know. But it reminds me of the MIT Sloan thing where he's like, I talk to superstars who are depressed and they're I get on the phone late at night with some stars and they're saying how miserable they are and how unhappy they are with all this money. And I'm just trying to imagine, it's just Not whether it's good or bad, but David Stern saying that, I could never imagine David being like, yeah, I talked to Michael over the phone, and he's just really upset and depressed with all this.
David wasn't trying to be your friend. David wanted you to know that he was an MF in charge. And I miss that about him. I miss David sort of poking his nose at the media and sort of getting on us if we ask a silly question and everything else. I like the mental exercise of dealing with the emperor. And I think to some degree, like, you got to have a leader. If you're going to be the leader, if you're going to be the guy, then you almost have to be above everybody and behave that way. Like, yeah, you can have an open line and everything else. You don't want to be a closed door. But you can't be, because if you're everybody's friend, then you're listening to things that maybe you shouldn't, or you think because you're listening to 3 superstars that it's indicative of an entire NBA, when it could just be those 3 dudes is just depressed because they spending too much damn time on social media.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Is like, what does it say about the players that they're reaching out to the commissioner for their advice on?
Because he tells them that they can.
It's an open line, open door policy, you know?
Yeah, I think that answers the Clippers question. Is Chris Paul called Adam, but Steve didn't call Adam about Chris.
If I had to guess, if I had to surmise, yeah, that's probably the chain of command. Yeah. What is Steve Ballmer going to say? He wasn't flying in the middle of the night to go tell Chris Paul he was cut. That was somebody else's decision by and large. Yeah. And if you're Chris Paul, why would I wouldn't want to call Adam, man, can you believe what they just did to me? You 41. It's time to go home.
Well, that's what Lawrence told him.
Why does everybody have to play forever? Like, can we ask that question? Why does everybody have to play forever?
I think it's just he started 82 games last year, so I think in his mind, and I think he's right in a sense, is I still got something left, and if it weren't for Ty Lue, benching me, or Jeff Van Gundy arguments, whatever it is, I could still give a team something. And it's just like, there's only 30 teams out there, and there's only 2 that are in LA, and one of them already sent you packing. So it's going to come down to that other team if you really want to stay close to home, which we'll see, because I think December 19th is Friday, is when cap-wise the Lakers could fit in Chris Paul's contract, or adding a player under the cap or under the apron.
Can you imagine Chris Paul telling JJ Redick about switching up coverages? That would be must-see TV, baby. I want it. I love it. And yeah, he's got a relationship with JJ and DeAndre Ayton and LeBron. And it's like, but that was the thing about the Clippers, was they all knew the Chris Paul experience, So it was like, how did you guys not see this coming? But it's like Siegfried and Roy, right? When you stuck your head in the tiger's mouth, that tiger didn't go crazy. That tiger went tiger. That CP went CP.
Well, we'll see. It is interesting watching Blake Griffin on these national broadcasts, and just, and Ramona had her piece this week. And so I feel like, I feel this way. And I said it to Amin earlier, was just like, Chris Paul has every reason to feel right when they're 6-19. He has every reason to feel like I was right about y'all not doing this right. You should be switching up the defensive coverages. And if you want to send me home and then you go on a 4-game losing streak, it ain't me. But that's what Lawrence Frank said. He's not a scapegoat on the season, and he's not at fault. But
here's the other thing. Reading the room is vastly underrated, I think, in today's antisocial society, where we spend a lot of time talking at each other and not to each other. You know what I mean? Like, we spend a lot of time in the comment section and not necessarily a lot of time in what I like to call direct address. You got to be able to read the room. And this is not advocating for Lawrence Frank or Ty Lue or whatever it is. Just the question you often have to ask yourself, and I've done this time at various workplaces. It is, am I right? And do I need to be the one to say it? And both of those answers have to be yes. Because sometimes you can be right, but it don't need for me to say it.
I don't think Chris Paul feels that way too often.
The second part of your question, right? The answer is usually yes. Yeah, he feels that way, which, man, it's hard to argue with the resume, but everybody goes through this in the NBA. And I think everybody, forget NBA players, everybody's worked at a workplace or been with your family and realized, yep, it's not for me to say. I'm going to be out of pocket if I say something about this. And mom's not going to be happy if I make that comment. And you stand down, you're like, yep, I might be right, but it ain't worth it. Right.
Yep. But is it worth it to me? What's going to happen on the back end of this when I'm no longer Chris Paul, top 5, top 6 point guard of all time? When I'm Chris Paul, the guy that they said in this press release was coming to play a limited role.
Mm-hmm.
They said that.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to get ahead of this from the beginning. And some guy at 41 years old, you're not going to change.
Vinny, would you hire Chris Paul to coach your team?
Which means I'm Chris Paul's boss?
Yeah, you're the GM or you're the owner. Man. Are you hiring Chris Paul?
If I don't got to talk to him every day, maybe.
Well, you don't have to talk to
listen
him.
To everybody's complaint because, hey, this person's shirt wasn't tucked in and all that. Like,
okay, so you could hire a buffer. You could hire someone to manage Chris Paul. So you're the owner. You have a GM. Are you hiring Chris Paul as the coach?
Here's the bigger question, Anthony Mays. Is some team going to hire Chris Paul to run their basketball operations? Because in theory, Chris Paul fits the mold of somebody who knows the game well enough to be able to get the scouting right. He's got the Chris Paul AAU stuff, the camp, like he knows everything on a grassroots level. He's really, 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 really smart. The problem is, does being smart sort of erase all the other things that comes with you? And if you have ultimate power and ultimate say and no checks and balances, woo, baby, I can't imagine those daily meetings.
Yeah, well, I think he deserves a shot. I think anybody with that kind of experience, acumen, especially in the leadership roles, with being the head of the PA and president of your high school class and all this stuff, he clearly wants to be a leader, and you know that he's reading that CBA for any loophole that he can win over on the other GMs. You know he's going to know that inside and out. But there's a lot more to the job, right? It's relationships, being able to get on the phone and not try. We deal with this in fantasy football all the time at this stage of the year where it's like, you don't have to campaign for the trade being smart for me. Like enough. No,
but someone sends you the trade and says, oh yeah, man, this is very fair. You ain't got to tell me it's fair. If you're telling me it's fair, I know you're trying to get over on me.
Right. Oh yeah. Like when the guy's like, I don't even know if I would do this, but I'll just throw it out there. I'm like, bullshit. You're not sending me that if you're not going to do it. So
exactly.
Vinnie Goodwill at ESPN. Go check out his work at ESPN.com. It's been a pleasure. I'm glad you made it back safely and soundly. You did very well for a 45-minute hit within hours of landing from Vegas.
After
I'm just telling you.
6 days in Vegas? Get some rest, Vinnie.
I'm running on adrenaline, and if you know who I work for, it probably means I'm not getting any rest. So I'm glad to get on with you guys.
Well, congratulations, man, and it's good to see you, and thanks for stopping by, and we'll talk soon.
I appreciate y'all, man.